Agree with Alan Greenspan, we ought to just eliminate the debt ceiling. Oh, absolutely, we do.
The ability of almost every working American to access more credit than they should have been able to masked the underlying fact that lower and middle class incomes were not rising.
That's not a tenable strategy. Isn't now the time to eliminate it? Oh, we've been a long time ago.
Let's put aside terrorism. Let's talk only about our own homegrown animals that are patrolling America right now. So it goes down to the simplest thing. Be prepared, be vigilant.
Oh God, this mountain culture kombucha is so incredible. Organic, raw young Thai coconut, turmeric coconut water. And they are doing such a tremendous job, it's unbelievable. I can't even believe how good it is. It's a phenom. It's an absolute phenom of flavor. I love it. I'm in love with it. It's like, well, first of all, I never really would have thought about the richness of coconut. And that turmeric, that turmeric has like that fresh flavor. It's got like an encapsulated sort of fresh flavor. I never would have imagined putting the two together. But they're bombastic, goddammit. It's James Walton with I Am Liberty, by the way, in case you were wondering. It's February, but we're skipping winter this year here in Virginia, and I'm not upset about it at all. You know what I mean? I know the people in the global warming lobby. There's probably a lot of people upset about this beautiful day. And I think it's something to the bigger picture of life. You know, you get so many years on this planet. And when you have a nice day, let's enjoy it. Let's not bring the doom and gloom into life all the time. You know, that's why I opened the show with a comment about my drink. Because it's a beautiful day. I've been writing like a madman all morning, waiting for it to heat up. I've fallen face first into the survival freelance writing career. And I'm doing a wonderful job. You quickly take things like this for granted. You really do. Almost immediately you start to take things for granted in this life. And it's terrible. And a lot of times when I get up on this microphone, well, really what this is a cell phone. But when I get on this avenue that I speak to people, a lot of times I use it just as a reminder to myself. You know, a lot of times it is. It's like that notebook that you write your goals and your hopes and your dreams in. Do you have one of those? Do you have one of those notebooks? I used to do much better at keeping journals. I'll tell you what I do journal, and that's my fishing. A practice my father did all through my life, growing up, my whole life. Dad had his journal. After every fishing trip, he'd sit down with his impeccable handwriting. And he also had those really great pens. I forget what they're called. You don't see them anywhere now. But they were like the pens of the old days almost, you know? And he'd sit there and he'd write with that thing, and he'd write the journal entry. And his handwriting, Catholic school, 18 years, boys only school, lashings, beatings, the whole 9 yards. And he'd sit there and he'd write out it with that great handwriting exactly how the fishing day went. And this is an incredible practice for those out there who think, you may be really into hunting, and you may... Even if you're into hunting, though, you should document every trip. You really should. It takes 10 minutes. That's all it takes, 10 minutes. Sit down, you write a date. I'll tell you exactly the layout of ours, right? The Walton method. No relation to the great fisherman of origin, Isaac Walton, the great angler. Maybe we are. I don't know. Who knows? I never did the genie. What is it? The Ancestry.com? Never did it. I have no idea if it's even legitimate. We could be. I could be the distant grandson or great-grandson of Isaac, great-great-great-grandson of Isaac, Sir Isaac Walton. Who knows? Is he a sir? I don't know. I'm thinking Isaac Newton now. But anyway, it's a beautiful day, and I just feel like talking. Is that okay with you? If it's not okay with you, you can turn this off. Because my sponsors won't be upset, because I have no sponsors. And I have no sponsors because I want to be able to get up on this line and talk to you whenever I want to about whatever I want to. You understand what that takes in this world? You know, I'm not going to be beholden to anyone. And now that I have a profession that allows me not to be beholden to anyone, I am just starting to understand what freedom really is all about. You know? I have the judge, jury, executioner of my wife, and that's a... No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. The wife is great. She's good to me. But, let's talk about the Walton method. All right, so it's date, it's locality, location, right? Where were we fishing? Temperature of the air, temperature of the water, which is critical. You have to get a thermometer that goes underwater, and you can buy them at, you know, any real outdoor shop. And you got to take the water temperature. Water temperature tells you everything about everything about everything. So water temperature, air temperature, baits used. Okay, what did you sling? Doesn't have to be what you caught on. You want the whole gamut. What did you use? All together, the whole day. And what did you catch? Okay, what did you get? How many of what? Species, break it up by species. Even break the trout up by species. You know, if you're out there fishing these creeks and these streams and these ponds that are stocked with trout, put the breakdown of what kind of trout you caught. Did you get a brook trout? Did you catch all rainbows? Was it 2 rainbows, 2 brown trout? Put these details in. And then leave yourself a section for notes. Because there's always an adventure, right? Every fishing trip comes with an adventure. I could think of almost every fishing trip I've ever taken in my whole life, and I fish a lot. And I've been doing so longer than I can remember. And there's a story for every one. One of my favorite, most recent ones, I'll tell you. We were sitting there at this little public pond, stocked public pond. We're out there with, I think we were minnows, maybe. It was just me and the boys. You know, and we had the rod, bobber, live bait flung out in the middle, not really paying much attention to it. And it was when my oldest son was first starting to figure out what types of species of fish were in the water around us, right? And he was into bass, I want a bass. And he just sat there, and we hauled in a catfish, took it off, threw it back, and then he said, I want a bass, Dad, I want to catch a bass. And no sooner did he say that than the bobber sink and start cutting right? And I picked that thing up and set the hook and handed him the rod, and he reeled in his bass. What is there to life other than that? Is there something better in life than that? Because I don't know what it is. There's nothing better than that. You know, these moments we forget about. Okay, what's this guy doing? You know, it's easy to get wrapped up in the crashing and the falling and the smashing of society. Right? It really is. You get down here on this lower level of society where people are trying to make it, and people are doing anything they can to make it, and you get to the point where it's just, you can get lost in it. You can forget about how great life really is. Your life has never been better. I don't care how bad your life is. Comparatively speaking, let's look at 1916. Go back in time, take a look at the average American's living conditions in 1917 in comparison to 2017. Just take a look at it. You think anybody was sipping on a turmeric and coconut kombucha while driving through the streets of Richmond, Virginia in a brand new car going to pick up his son from a school that is phenomenal? Come on. I don't want to brag. I don't like bragging that much, but this is just one man's living situation. You know, I'm trying to convey a point here about, holy God, life is good. Life is good. And for those who make their own life good, it's even better. You know, for those who have the wherewithal to get out there and make their own life good, man, it's a big deal. So in your spare time, if you are a fisherman, you're probably hunting those crappies. You probably got your eyes set on those crappies or those early season trout right now. Or maybe you're hunting the giant muskies or the pikes or the pickerels. It's that time of year. You know what I mean? What do they call them? The water wolves? What's the name of the pike? I can't think of the name. I wanted to say sea wolf, but I know that's not true. These fish are all around us, man. There's people who drive by lakes and bodies of water. They never go fishing. But if you do get out, take the 10 minutes and create the journal, man. The journal is so cool. You have no idea what it's like, right? Now that I'm 30. So I'm 30 years old, and I get to, when I go back to my parents' home in Delaware, they moved to Delaware, When I go back to my parents' house and I stow away back into their bedroom and then grab one of these journals and bring it out, I get to look back at these trips, and they all come back to life immediately as I start to read them. Conditions, rainy, Jimmy was cold. That's what my dad always called me. 2 brown trout caught on a spinner, 1 caught on a Berkeley crawfish. So something to that effect. And you go back and you read those things, and man, it's chronological from as far back as I can remember, all the way up till basically when I moved out of my parents' house and stopped fishing with, which maybe even a little past that. But really, when I stopped fishing with my dad a lot, I think he stopped taking journals, which is a sad thing in and of itself. But, now I have it to look forward to. Right? The truth of life is you leave your parents and you see the hurt in their face and the pain as they begin to realize that there's a separation happening that's never going to be knit back together in this same sort of timeline. Hopefully not. And they have to be happy and they have to be upset at the same time. And I used to beat up on myself about it because I moved away from them. I moved far away from them, 4 hours away. And then you have your own kids and you realize, oh, this little bastard's going to do the same thing to me, isn't he? And you got to leave some of it up to the trials of life. Some of the hardships are just part of life. You can't save everybody. You can't save everybody from an awkward feeling or a painful, that thing. And people adapt. People adapt. They don't sit around and wallow, okay? They'll adapt and something good will come of it. But the fishing season is going to come early this year, it seems like. I can't see it getting... Are we going to see a cold snap come back? Or is this it? Could we have planting happening, really serious planting happening in March this year? Which would be unbelievable for me, especially with the condition of the garden this year. That would be super. But I'm just driving. I'm just driving down Forest Hill Avenue. The beautiful, historic Forest Hill Avenue. I guess you could call it that. Some of these homes are ancient history. Churches. Driving through the capital of the Confederacy where I live. And my father-in-law never lets me forget that. All right? The capital of the Confederacy here, Richmond, Virginia. The Union was brutal here, man. They burnt the whole city, right? They burnt the Capitol building down. It did a lot of damage to old Richmond. The war didn't go well for the South late. It got real bad for the South late. And what do you do with that information? I don't know, but everything's relative. If you talk long enough, things run into one another because you wind up talking about Richmond, the capital of the Confederacy during the Civil War, and you look around at the political strata of today and you say to yourself, well, here we go again. If the chips fall the right way, we could be going this way again. And on my Wednesday show, on my live show, I was talking to the audience about what would the battle lines be? Who would the battle lines be drawn between? It was very clear. We had a Mason-Dixon line. You fall below this line, guess what? You're South. You're Southern. You're the enemy. You go above this line, you're the Union. You're the North. You're the enemy. They're very clear, very easy. We wear 2 different color uniforms and we go battle. It sounds like some sort of medieval thing to people of today. It really does. But that was the scenario. So I asked my listening audience on Wednesday on the live show at prepperbroadcasting.com, and if you get this, I don't harp on this enough, but if you get this podcast, man, you have to go to prepperbroadcasting.com every Wednesday live and see my show. It's so fun. You don't understand. If you just get it through Libsyn and you just get this show and this is all you know of I Am Liberty, you have to come to prepperbroadcastingnetwork.com live Wednesday nights. There's a live chat room. You'll meet some really great people who listen to my show every week live. You can call in and we can have a ball. And about 15 to 20% of my show is feedback from my chat room because they're all great people who bring great thoughts. And we were talking about the dividing line this go-round, right? And a lot of people were saying the haves and have-nots, right? They were thinking the rich versus the poor type of thing, which I don't know if I buy into that. I think it would be a lot more anarchy, to be honest with you. I think it would be a lot more anarchy and a lot less war. I actually called it the civil American conflict, because I don't even think we could fight a real civil war. We haven't fought a war in how many years? I don't even know that we have the ability to fight a war in the borders of the nation. But I'm gonna go enjoy my beautiful day. Okay, if you're in this sphere of good weather that's coming all through the weekend, I implore you do the same. Right? Get out. Brush aside the deep state for a little while. Brush aside the fake news for a while, which we're going to do a show on fake news Wednesday. I'm not calling it fake news anyway. It's not fake news. It's tilt news. TILT news. That's what it is. It's a biased news. It's not that, well, we'll talk about it Wednesday. Don't miss the Wednesday show. We've got jwrights.com. Are you launching a survival blog? Do you have a preparedness product or service that you want to get to market? Use jwrights.com and we'll create unique content for you written by yours truly. This is my freelance website. You've come to know me. Trust me. Visit jwrights.com for your survival and preparedness freelance writing needs. I do infographics, white papers, ebooks. Visit jwrights.com. So this brings us to another beautiful day and a conversation about the pendulum swing. I read an article in the Telegraph earlier this morning while drinking some Krispy Kreme coffee, which I do love. I think that's my favorite coffee. I think Krispy Kreme does coffee the best, in my estimation. Right? I am no coffee connoisseur. It's a new thing for me, really. I never really used to like it, but I don't know. It just runs me the right way. You know, it runs me the way I need the machine to be run, even when I didn't sleep much the night before and that whole thing. But I read this great report, paper, whatever, article from the Telegraph this morning about the pendulum swing of conservatism amongst students and amongst youngsters. And I read another horrible story about students and about youngsters in Washington, D.C., where the gang MS13 is actually recruiting students as young as high school. Right? There was a murder of a 15-year-old boy that's been linked to the MS13 gang, and there's been a rise in D.C., especially in these inner-city high schools, of violent crime. So you look at the clear existential threats of what the left wing has done to the country, right? That's about as succinct as you can put that. That is a clear and existential threat created by the left wing in this country, created by the idea that we must consistently be censored and compassionate, controlled and compassionate and censored of any true feelings or true statements. And what the article basically went over is that this censorship is an attack on freedom. This cliquey, they referred to it as cliquey censorship, which I kind of like. I kind of like the combination, right? Cliquey censorship. Right? The idea that you can say this about him, but not this about her, this about them, but not this about those. Cliquey censorship. I like it. So I read on to the article, and it basically goes into all of the things that have happened as of late. You know, the Milo Yiannopoulos basically being thrown to the wolves over him wanting to speak his mind. And the very basic idea that we should be able to talk about what we want to talk about because we have the First Amendment. We should be able to say the words that we want to say, and we shouldn't be given talking points by one part of the nation on how to speak about them. And the diagnosis by the author of the article basically says that it is this infringement on true liberty and freedom that is creating a generation of conservatives, right? I think Milo, for all his popularity lately, he refers to that group as the regressive left, right? The regressive left, not the progressive left, but the regressive left. And when you see that there's quote-unquote policy, their air quotes policy on, you know, your right to speak about what you want to speak about, you can understand it. You can understand where he's coming from. So I read that article, and I have my own 2 cents about this. Now, I believe that the nation is one big pendulum swing, and this is the way that it goes. And we never stop. You know, America never stops, so the pendulum that is politically America never stops either. right? And we swing wider and wider and wider, and we're never going to be centered. It's never going to happen. Nor should it happen, right? Because what gives a conservative his motivation, right? Nothing makes a conservative more angry and motivates a conservative to be more conservative and buy more stickers and hats and shirts and listen to than the crazy policies of the left, and vice versa, right? They are, to me, it seems like they're almost necessary, right? You need to have this wild right wing and this wild left wing, and the rest of the people fall somewhere in between. What I've been thinking about for a long time before I read this article was another theory that has been really, really brought to light by Donald Trump. And it's an undeniable theory that America, you have the left, you have the right, you have the fundamental bulk of America that falls somewhere in between. But what the fundamental bulk of America loves more than anything and runs to is an underdog, right? And when you see a man being blasted on television as much as our president is, even though he's a billionaire, even though he's a white guy, even though he's old, even though he's everything we're supposed to hate, right? Even though the man is everything that you read about and you think that, oh, this is what we're supposed to hate, right? Inequality, racist, slave owner. He's got slaves in his basement still to this day. What becomes very interesting is a guy who has all the targets on him can very easily become the underdog. And you could argue that he was the underdog long before right now. Right? You can argue that him going up against the machine that was Hillary Clinton, the dominant force in politics, already made him the underdog. And I don't care what you say, I don't care how cliche you might think it is, and I don't care how silly you might think it is. We come from a lineage of underdogs, and we move towards that underdog. And conservatism right now, as of this moment, with the fascistic left wing, right? The well-intentioned idiots of the left wing, they have turned the conservative movement and freedom-loving Americans into the underdog. With their loud mouths, with their fires, with their hate groups, with their little militant offshoots that are starting to crop up now. They've turned the conservative movement into the underdog, which is the worst thing in the world for them. It's as bad as it gets. Because it is my theory that America loves an underdog more than anything else. More than anything else, we love an underdog. And we want to see that underdog win. Even if we don't necessarily fully agree with them. We want to see them win. We want to see it pull it out. You know what I mean? That's what we love. And that's why we're seeing the pendulum swing. That's exactly why we're watching the pendulum swing in this nation. I think it has to do with the quote-unquote regressive left. It has to do with the casual communism that we see everywhere. Casual communism. Write that one down. That's a winner. It has to do with the onslaught and the onset of casual communism in this nation. Right? If you look up the term communism, you'll understand what I mean when I say casual communism. Because that's what's going on. It has to do with all these things wrapped up in a package, and the fact that we are seeing a bullying and oppressive media like never before now. Never. You know, they poked fun at George Bush, and they made fun of him, and they called him dumb, stuff like that. But we've never seen vitriol from a media like this. We've never seen vitriol from a State Department like this. And that's what we're seeing. And what it does to the average American who is a passerby and doesn't bury his head in this crap all the time is he goes, well, we've been force-fed all this stuff about bullying for how many years now? We've been told it's not okay to bully, you can't bully, you shouldn't be bullying. And you turn it on and you see a media that has considerable influence and power bullying the President of the United States, whether you like him or not. It's an irrefutable fact, right? The media is bullying Donald Trump. Now, he's not going to sit there and take it lightly. That's why he came out and said what he said. And he's also very aware of the fact that they're going to twist that as well. I'm not doing this to stand up for the guy. I'm just letting you know. This is what the situation is in your nation. We are having a pendulum swing because MS13 is recruiting in Washington, D.C. high schools and probably elsewhere in the nation. We're recruiting because we realize that these things have been going badly for too long. People are coming to understand that though it may feel good to be a well-intentioned idiot, and you may go to sleep a lot better at night knowing that, you got millions of people running around this nation unchecked and unvetted, and they just do whatever the hell they want. But hey, at least there's a certain percentage of them that are running from terror in their own nation, and we're doing the right thing. How many American lives are at risk? Who cares? Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. They're all white and they're all privileged anyway. Their ancestors were made of gold. They actually drove around in gold on gold horses. So who cares about them? Who cares if their kids get slain in high school by MS-13 gang leaders? Doesn't matter. What matters is that we did something that makes us feel really good inside. And we can go tweet about it, and we can take selfies with it, and we could talk about it over I don't know, what do people do? Talk about it over I don't know. What do people do? What do they drink anymore? Do they drink good whiskey? I don't know. I guess you talk about it over a craft brew, right? Ah, yes, a craft brew. Yum, delicious. Have me a nice craft brew. Talk about the end of the world, the end of the nation. And that's that. That's that, folks. You know what I mean? So in the dust, as the dust clears, right, as the blast shears off the hairs closest to your, whatever, you come to the shocking realization that, oh my God, the nation is going to turn. The nation is going to turn, and it's going to turn hard, and it's going to turn right. And that's it. Will it have an effect? Who knows? It doesn't really matter to me. It doesn't really matter to me. It's not going to affect me really that much. But the idea is things have changed. Things have changed like never before. And they're going to keep on changing. And then they'll swing back. I mean, that's the beauty of the nation, right? Things that change, and they swing, and then they'll swing back. And that's how it goes. So what else? What else is there to talk about? This is the upswing. This is the downturn. This is the strange movement that we had hoped for. And now we're seeing it in the youth, which is where we want. So amid the indoctrination and everything else, right, amid all this nasty stuff, we know what's going on in schools. We know what's being taught in schools. We know the horrors of school. Amid all this stuff, still coming out on top with some people who understand what the hell's going on. And that's a beautiful thing. You can't beat that. You can't beat that. The youth, because deep down, we hate to be bothered, right? Deep down, we don't want authority telling us what we can and can't talk about. And the moment that the left started acting like the way the right used to, turned the tide, baby. It turned the tide. But I'm going to go out here and catch some trout. I'm looking over Shields Lake. It's stocked with rainbows and brown trout, and I really am interested in eating some of them tonight. So this may be the whole show. I'm not sure. I may come in for another segment. If not, you'll hear the outro music. How about that?